Hello everybody and welcome back into the Six Hockey Studios. I'm Jaden Ho here with Kirby Sloan as we take another look at the OHL Priority Selection Draft from 2022. Obviously we've taken a look at the players who got drafted, but now we're going to take a look on the other side and highlight some players from the GTHL who didn't have their name called on draft day. Obviously not everyone can be drafted, but perhaps some of the players who didn't get drafted maybe deserve to, so we'll take a look at that. We'll start by looking at how many players did get drafted. 107 players from the GTHL did not get their name called at the OHL draft, with 110 being called, so about half the players in the league got selected. So we'll take a look now at the players selected per round.
I mean, if there's ever a question about the absolute level of talent in the GTHL, this OHL draft highlights that, noting that 13 of the GTHL players got drafted in the first round, 15 in the second, making that a absolute high volume of players in the early rounds, noting just how good they are. And some of the other notable rounds to look at, I mean, we had 9 go in the 14th and the 15th round, so maybe quite a few sleepers in there for us. But the late round picks, a lot of people wanted to go with the GTHL, and I genuinely think that's because of the level of competition that they had to play against, that they can already be at that OHL level. And the guys in the later rounds probably should have been higher draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at over half of the picks in both the first and second round getting picked from one league, that really shows you about the competition level in that league. But once again, not everyone can be drafted, and there are a lot of talented players who didn't make it. So we're going to take a look now at some of the best players who didn't get their name called, and some guys who you're going to want to keep an eye on for that U18 draft in a couple of years. So here's our marquee players board. Who stands out for you on here?
There are a lot of guys that stand out to me, but really off the bat is the obvious one. Kieran Litterick from the Don Mills Flyers. I think he might have just been hurt by the team he was playing on. They didn't really get the same coverage as teams like the Sens or the Canadians, but he was really a standout player, a guy that could really put a team on his back. He was always working hard. Even when they were losing, you would notice he's still working hard for the pucks. He's the only one that was really, really trying towards the end, and that's really why I think he should have got drafted. And then you have some guys like Liam Hogan from the Rebels, who I really enjoyed watching this year, who didn't get drafted, and Logan Burno, I mean, Emerson, Giacomo. There were really some good picks here that I wish got drafted. Gabriel Carvalho from the Kings, a lot of great options, and it's sad that none of them could get drafted.
And I mean, those guys are all guys who maybe there's an argument made for them to not be drafted. Obviously, there's a ton of talent elsewhere in the league, but we're going to take a look at 3 guys right now who are just absolute draft snubs here. It's hard for us to understand how they didn't get picked, really. And we're starting off with Emerson Giacomo.
Yeah, I mean, he was likely passed on due to his lack of size. He's a little bit smaller frame than a lot of other players. He does have a terrific work ethic, though. You notice how hard he works on the offensive end. And he's a guy that would just show up to camp, and I bet he would have worked really hard for an OHL team, and it's sad he didn't get that opportunity to show coaches that. But more, he compensated for his small frame with skill and that work ethic we were talking about. He has the skill for it, he has the drive, he has the passion, and I think that the size really did hold him back. He's a very quick skater as well. I noted he had some really good hands that could help him beat defenders. He creates time and space for himself and his teammates, and he's willing to go to the dirty areas, battle in the corners and in front of the net, and he was always working for those loose pucks. Really a shame not seeing him in the league.
And I mean, a player with a work ethic like Emerson Giacomo, you know he's got a chip on his shoulder now. He's going to be working harder than anybody else to try and get his name called at that U18 draft. So he'll be a player to watch for the next couple of years wherever he chooses to go. Another player from the other Kings team who we think really should have been selected here, Gabriel Carvalho, maybe overshadowed by other talent on his team. He played for a pretty solid Vaughan Kings team, but he's a really good puck-moving defenseman. He's got good size too, and you don't see that very often, a player who has that size but can also move the puck so well. He carries it up through transition. He sets up his teammates. He plays on both special teams, so he's a very versatile player. He can be trusted in defensive situations, but he can also provide that level of offense that you need, quarterbacking that power play, finding teammates, using his vision, using his passing, and setting things up for his team with the man advantage. Obviously, one of the best players I've seen in transition in this league, just such a smooth skater. He uses that to make things happen offensively. So he really sets himself up, he sets his teammates up, and that's something that I think really would have translated well to the OHL. So another player who we think is probably going to have a bit of a chip on his shoulder come next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, we really like Gabriel Carvalho. We called a lot of his games. I always noted his work ethic, and he was a guy I really thought could have been even a 14th, 15th round guy, a steal that would work his way up to making the team, maybe still playing in a lower level, junior A, and then making the team that second year. So just a bit of a shame not to see that. Next on our list was Marcus Ochrym. I mean, he just played really good with the Marlboros team, and you notice that scouts probably didn't notice him because of the teammates he was playing with. He had a lot of really high value talent on his team, the first, second round picks, and I think sometimes you just get overshadowed and your role gets overshadowed, but he's an incredibly smart player. He has that hockey IQ. He's a guy that just really looks for his teammates first, and maybe he didn't show enough of his personal skill and what he can do, and that's why he got overlooked. But he was somebody that just had soft hands, and he used them great and effective in his passing, setting up his teammates. He was always looking for his teammates first, and that seems to become an undervalued asset now. You need to always show out for yourself, be explosive for yourself, and he just was never selfish like that, and I probably never gave him the time of day. He knows what to do with the puck as well. He has a good sense of where to pass it, when to shoot. He's very patient with his shot. He's never going to rush it. He's going to take those high value looks, those really, really good ones. He's willing to wait for it. And again, that's probably why you didn't see him shoot as much and it didn't look as well on the resume. But he was also willing to throw the body. He's taking the hits. He's finishing checks. It was really impressed with that. He's a good frame too, but he works hard with and without the puck. He's very supportive for his star level players. He's just really good. He wants to see his teammates do well first, and I think that's an undervalued asset and something that more players in the OHL can use, and he's somebody I think should have gone in those later rounds.
Yeah, obviously Ochrym is one of our favorite players. So those are three guys who we really think deserve to be drafted and who are absolute snubs. So we're really rooting for them wherever they go in this next couple of years. We'll take a look now at the players drafted team by team. We've got it sorted by league standings, and you can notice right away at the top the teams get more players picked. So that has a very clear effect on where you get drafted. You look at teams like the Marlboros, Sens, JRC, the majors. They're all getting 14, 15 players selected, while if you look down towards the bottom of the graph, it's 3, 2, 4 maybe. So obviously this is going to affect some of the players on the team who might get overlooked, or who, some of them maybe aren't talented enough. I mean, not everybody's going to be drafted, like we've said many times, but it can cause good players on bad teams to be overlooked in the draft. I think Emerson Giacomo is a very clear example of that. And we'll take a look now at a comparison to last year. As you can see, some teams have made significant strides, while some teams have taken steps back.
Yeah, one of the most notable ones is obviously the Mississauga Senators. 15 drafted this year versus 0 last year. And that really raises the question we were talking about earlier. Did those 15 players get drafted from the Sens because they are OHL level talent, or because they played with guys like Michael Misa and Malcolm Spence? Now, I think it might be a mix of both. I think the Sens were incredibly deep in their talent this year. They had a lot of incredible players, guys like Bode Stewart that were backing them up, Caden Kelly, a lot of guys I really enjoyed watching. So I wouldn't say that a lot of it is because of that, but when you have star factor, star talent, you're going to get more attention. And I think that really helped the Sens this year really get the attention that maybe they deserved last year and they didn't get last year because of that. And that can be the same case for some of the lower teams, some of the teams that had 0 this year or 2 this year. Maybe if the Thunder Bay Kings had that star level talent, it would highlight the guys around them as well, and they would really get the attention they deserve. And so it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, really a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, so obviously a really interesting draft class that was selected, but also a really interesting class of players that didn't get picked this year. So we'll be looking very intently to see what happens with these guys in the next couple of years, if they can make it into the junior level. Obviously, not over for them yet. A couple of years until the OHL U18 draft, and we'll be watching closely for them then. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jaden Ho for Kirby, Sloan, and everybody here at the Six Hockey. We'll see you next time.